Hey everybody, welcome back to HISD TV. My name is Mr. Pa and I'm an elementary math teacher development specialist. Before we begin our lesson today, I want you to make sure that you have the right materials you need for today's lesson. So first, you're gonna need something to write with, such as a pen, pencil, marker, and something to write on, such as notebook paper, math journal, math notebook. So go ahead and pause the video and grab your materials that you may need at this moment. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Today's lessons, you may need something extra too. If you were in our last video and saw the last lesson, we had something extra with us, which was the STAR reference material sheet. It will look like this. If your teacher gave you a copy of this, perfect. If not, go ahead and make a note to ask your teacher for a copy of this in case you need it for future lessons. And it's okay if you don't have it, because you can easily Google 5th grade STAR mathematics reference material and it will pop up and you will be able to use it on your electronic device, whether it's an iPad, Chromebook, whatever it is. So that way you have that ready too. So we may not use that today, but it's always good to have on you, so that way you're prepared for that. So go ahead and pause the video, grab those materials and come back and unpause the video and we'll go over our objective for the day. Welcome back. So our objective for today is I can represent and solve real-world problems involving perimeter of polygons where side lengths are positive rational numbers. So that's our objective for today. And before we move on to the next part, what we're going to do is review our vocabulary. So we're going to go ahead and review our vocabulary now before we get into our lesson. So our first word for the day is, if you were on the last video, you may have remembered this word, but we're just going to review it again. It is the metric measurement system. The International System of Units of SI metric is the standard system of measurement used by many scientists. The SI system measures length in millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers, volume in millimeters and liters, mass in milligrams, grams, and kilograms. Metric measurement system. And that's what they use all around the world. Our next word is also something that we talked about last week, is the customary measurement system. The system of measurement in the United States, this system measures length in inches, feet, yards, and miles, capacity in fluid, ounces, cups, pints, quarts, and gallons, weight in ounces, pounds, and tons. And that's something we only use in the United States. So the United States uses a different measurement system than the rest of the world. And then we're going to talk about the perimeter. This is a word that you're very, very familiar with because you should have learned this in previous grades before. Perimeter is the distance around a figure. The next word is area. Again, this is a word that you've learned in prior grade levels. This is the measure in square units of the interior of a two-dimensional figure or the surface of a three-dimensional figure. Area. And then our last word that we're going to be using today, or may use today, is length. The distance from one point to another along a straight line, typically the longest side of a rectangle. Length. So those are our vocabulary words today. So now we're going to get into our engage part of the lesson. So we're going to jump right into that and start our lesson. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at our math story for the engage part of our lesson. So our math story reads, the side lengths of two design layouts for a new city park are shown below. A fence builder wants to know the difference between the amount of fence that will be needed to fully enclose either of the layouts for the park. What is the difference between the perimeters of these designs in miles? And we're going to use our 3-read strategy to help us solve this problem. The first question that we're going to review is, what is this story about? And then we're gonna follow it with, what do I need to find out? What do I know? And then our next steps. And the 3 read strategy is something that we used last week, but it's also something that you should be using in your classes, whether you're watching the videos or back to face-to-face, whatever it may be. This strategy is a good strategy to help you understand this problem and break it down so that way you can actually get the answer correctly, not just by just looking at the problem and solving it, but really understanding what the story is asking us to do. So we're going to get into our 3 read strategy. Okay, we're going to start our engage part of the lesson. So let's look at our problem for this. Isabel is decorating her new art gallery. She needs to find the perimeter. She has 3 questions that will help her find the perimeter. Can you help her find the perimeter of her new space listed below? So this is her new space. And as you can see, it has a tick mark all around, meaning that these sides are all congruent. Our first question is, what operations might you use to solve this problem? Our second question would be, how can I use the model to solve the problem? And then the third question is, what do the tick marks represent in the models? So what you're going to do right now is go ahead, pause the video, copy this problem into your journal or paper, whatever you're writing on. Copy her space right here, and then these 3 questions. And I'll go ahead and just read the problem one more time, just in case you want to hear me say it out loud. Isabel is decorating her new art gallery. She needs to find the perimeter. She has 3 questions that will help her find the perimeter. Can you help her find the perimeter of her new space listed below? And then she has her space below with 1 tick mark on each side, meaning they're all congruent, and it's 4 4/4 miles. What operation might you use to solve this problem? How can I use the model to solve the problem? What do the tick marks represent in the model? So that's what you're going to use. I'm sorry, you might not be able to see that, so I'm going to put this right here. So that's what you're going to copy in your journal and go ahead and answer these questions. And then when you come back, we'll go ahead and discuss this engage. So by now you should have written this in your journal, and now let's go ahead and discuss this. So what operation did you realize that we might use? If you said addition, you're correct. Why? Because when we're finding the perimeter, we're adding all the sides of the shape. The second question, how can I use this model to solve the problem? Well, this model lets us know that all sides are equal. So we know that all sides are equal. If this side shows 4 and 4 miles, that means all the sides will be 4 and 4 miles. So that helps us know how to add the perimeter of this shape, that they're all equal. So the next part is, I think I mentioned this earlier, but let's see if you caught on. What do the tick marks represent in the models? That opposite sides are equal. And these 3 questions were able to help us solve this problem, or it should have helped you solve this problem. So now go ahead and take the time to solve the problem and see what you get. And then when you come back, we'll see if you got the right answer or not. All right, let's solve the problem and see where we go or what we get. So perimeter equals 4 4/10 plus 4 4/10 plus 4 4/10 plus 4 4/10. And we know that all these sides are 4 4/10 because all the sides are congruent, meaning they measure the same length. So I'm going to take it one step at a time. 4 plus 4 4/10. 4/10 plus 4/10 gives us 8/10. And then 4 plus 4 gives us 8. So we got 8 and 8/10. So let me add another 4 and 4/10. 8/10 plus 4/10 gives us 1 and 2/10. My 2/10 goes here. My 1 goes up here. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13. Now I'm going to take my 13 and 2/10 plus my last 4 and 4/10. 2/10 plus 4/10 is 6/10. 13 plus 4 is 17. So I should have gotten 17 and 6/10. If you got the answer, great job. And if you didn't, that's okay, because now we're going to move on into our lesson and figure out how to solve these problems using our 3-read strategy and be able to work these problems by breaking down the word problem and understanding what they're asking us to do and solving the problem as we go along. All right, so step 1 would be that we're going to solve for the perimeter of the first design. The tick mark tells us that the sides are congruent, therefore they have the same length. To find a perimeter, we add all 4 sides. So P for perimeter, we have 1 and 63/100 plus 8/10 plus 1 and 63/100 plus 2 and 8/10. That's our first step. And then when we add all these numbers together, that gives us a perimeter of 6 and 86/100. And I'm going to go ahead and add miles because that's what we're in right now. Then that's just the first design that we have up here. And notice that the tick marks right here, like we mentioned earlier, this side is congruent with this side. So that's why we have 1 and 63/100 on here twice. Step 2. Let's solve for the perimeter of the second design. The tick mark tells us that all the sides are congruent. Therefore, they have the same length. To find the perimeter, we add all 4 sides. So we have 2 and 4/10 plus 2 and 4/10 plus 2 and 4/10 plus 2 and 4/10. And that will give us 9 and 6/10 miles. And that's our step 2. Again, you notice the tick marks here, and it represents that these sides are all congruent. That's why we did 2 and 4/10 4 times. Step 3, find the difference between the 2 designs. So to find the difference, we're going to subtract. So remember earlier we talked about how we needed to add to find all the sides and add to find all the sides because that's how you find perimeter. Now we're going to subtract the difference between the total of this, for the perimeter of design 1 and design 2. So that's why it's always good to use a strategy such as the 3 reads to break down the problem, so that way we're not just jumping in and just adding all the numbers or subtracting all the numbers. We just have to be really careful and that we understand what the problem is asking us. And in this case, this is a multi-step problem where we're adding all the sides here and all the sides here, and then we're going to subtract the sum of those sides to give us our answer, because we are going to now find the difference of the 2 designs. 9 and 6/10 minus 6 and 86/100 gives us 2 and 74/100 miles. And that's how we solve our problem, from going step by step by step. So we just want to make sure that we are really organizing our work so that way not only it doesn't get us confused, but it keeps us nice, neat, and organized in order for us to solve the problem the right way. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and move into another problem that you may want to work on, so that way we can see the difference in fractions. Look at another problem. Jacob drew the shape below on a piece of paper. He used a ruler to measure the side length of the shape he drew. So he has 5/6 inches, 2 and 8/16 inches, 5/6 inches, and 1.5 inches. So, step 1. we need to find a common denominator for our fractions. So we need to find a common denominator for these fractions right here. So in order to do that, we can simplify 2 8/16 to 2 halves. We now have a denominator. We now have denominators of 2 and 6. Okay, so we're finding our common denominator for our fractions because it makes it easier for us to add the fractions together. What is a common denominator? I know that the denominator of 2 is a factor of the denominator of 6. I can now find equivalent fractions and add the sides. So now we have 2 and 3/6 plus 1 and 3/6 plus 5/6 plus 5/6, and that equals 3 and 16/6. Okay, let's move on to step. All right, step 2. We need to rename the mixed number 3 and 16/6. The denominator is 6, so we can draw a whole with 6 equal parts. So I have my 6 equal parts here, and I went ahead and shaded 6, 6. So we need to keep shading though. So I shaded 6, 6 more, so that way we now have 12, 6. We need to continue to shade. We need to shade an additional 4, 6. So I went ahead and shaded 4, 6. We can see that 16/6 is the same as 2 and 4, 6. 1, 2, and 4, 6. And it's probably best that I label this as 1, 2, and 4, 6. Now we're going to move on to step 3. Okay, step 3. We can now find the perimeter of Jacob's shape. So originally we had 2 and 8/16 plus 1 and 1/2 plus 5/6 plus 5/6. And we were able to convert it and simplify it to 3 plus 2, 4, 6. When we add that up, we get 5 and 4, 6. But we can't stop there. Guess what we have to do? We have to simplify 4, 6, which gives us 5 and 2/3. So the total perimeter of the trapezoid is 5 and 2/3 inches. And we've solved the problem. So now you're going to move on to the let's practice part of the lesson. It's going to be similar to one of these problems that we have here. So it's best if you want, you can go back and look at the beginning of the video and see the steps that we took to solve the 2 problems that we did, including this one. So that way you know how to solve this practice part of the lesson. So let's go ahead and move there. Make sure you have your pencil, paper, pen, whatever it is that you have to write on and write with, ready so that we can copy the problem. The let's practice part of our lesson. Sophia drew the shape below on a piece of paper. She used a ruler to measure the side lengths of the shape she drew. So she has 2 and 4/6 inches, 1 and 1/3 inches, 2 and 4/6 inches, and 1 and 6/12 inches. So go ahead and pause the video, copy this problem down, so that way you have in your journal, paper, whatever it is that you're using. And that way, once you have it copied down, go ahead and solve this problem. And when you're done solving this problem, just hold on to it, and your teacher may reach out to you to see what you got as your answer. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so hopefully you were able to solve that practice problem with no issues. And hopefully if you did get stuck or had some problems trying to solve it, that you went back in the problems that we did earlier in the lesson and use that as a review or as a guide to help you solve that practice problem. But let's move on to the recapping of our lesson today. So let me go ahead and read the objective again. I can represent and solve real-world problems involving perimeter of polygons where side lengths are positive rational numbers. So we're able to see a solve perimeter in 2 different problems, one involving decimals, one involving fractions. So that way it gives you a good idea how to solve both ways, because you just never know what they're going to give you on a test, whether it's going to be decimals or fractions. So hopefully it's giving you both ways to solve the problem. Finding perimeter with positive rational numbers was helpful for you. And again, if you ever got stuck, you can always come back to this video and look at the problems that we solved as a recap for you to understand how to solve problems as you come to them in assignments or anything like that. And one more thing I like to talk about is that our math strategy that we used today, which was a 3-read strategy. The 3-read strategy. Again, this is a strategy that will help you break down the word problem or the math story so that way, one, you're able to understand it a lot better. Two, you're able to solve the problem without getting stuck. And just three, just for help you better understand and comprehend not only that problem, but what they're asking you to do. So let's review these questions. What is this story about? What do I need to find out? What do I know? And what are my next steps? And you know what? It's probably best for you to pause the video now, copy these questions down somewhere in your journal notebook, somewhere you can always refer back to when you're solving problems in the future. And I recommend that whenever you're stuck on a math story or all your math stories, to go ahead and ask these questions, or write down these questions and answer them, so that way you can have a better understanding of what the problem is asking you. So, just want to say thank you for joining us on HISD TV, and that I hope that you're able to learn something new today. And if not, that you can just rewatch this video and use it as a way to guide you through helping you solve real-world problems involving perimeter where side lengths are positive rational numbers. So I hope you have a good day today. Thank you. Bye.